With regards to technology, we need to, as parents, approach it as a very powerful tool, not as a babysitter or a source of entertainment, meaning we approach cars very carefully and we make sure our children have car seats and seatbelts. We let kids play outside, but hopefully with sunscreen. You know what I mean? And so, as long as we're aware of the possibilities, both good and bad, of what children can encounter or do with that tech, we will be better suited.
Welcome to the Company of Dads podcast. After 120 plus episodes, we're doing something different this season. I'm still your host, Paul Sullivan, and we're still focused on lead dads, working moms, and how small changes at home or work can have a big impact on their lives. What's new is each episode now promises to deliver actionable advice on some area of concern at home or at work. Short, direct, again, actionable. 5 questions, 5 answers. Today, our guest is Titania Jordan, Chief Marketing Officer at Bark Technologies. And if you're a parent with screen-age kids like I am, you're shouting OMG right now. It's like you're seeing Taylor Swift in your coffee shop. As parents, we know Bark. Bark is one of the go-to sources to bring sanity to a house full of screen-obsessed children with monitoring and all kinds of safety features. Disney Circle is another one. Custodia is another one out there. None of these companies are paying me. I am legitimately enthusiastic to be talking to the CMO of Bark. And this is an amazing time to have this talk because Titania has also just written a new book called Parental Control, a guide to raising balanced kids in the digital era. She's coming to us live from Atlanta. Welcome, Titania, to the Company
Thank
Dance
you.
Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
At some point, is your phone going to just beep during this because it hasn't turned off and you're not good with technology? Are you going to get distracted by your phone at some point, or have you
I
mastered it?
hope not.
Okay, good.
It's
All
very
right,
possible.
that wasn't the first question. I said 5 questions. The first question is a serious one, and that it's a broad one. From your day job at Bark, from your book Parental Control, how should parents approach technology today, particularly when the majority of us grew up with nothing like our kids have right now?
Great question. I would say we need to, as parents, approach it as a very powerful tool, not as a babysitter or a source of entertainment, meaning we approach cars very carefully and we make sure our children have car seats and seatbelts. We let kids play outside, but hopefully with sunscreen. You know what I mean? And so, with regards to technology, as long as we're aware of the possibilities, both good and bad, of what children can encounter or do with that tech, we will be better suited.
Okay, fair enough. And for people who don't know Bark, give us, the one-on-one 101 on how Bark can help parents, with
Sure.
that task. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bark launched in 2015 utilizing artificial intelligence before everybody like knew what, Chat GPT was, to analyze children's digital signal. Our algorithm would analyze children's text, emails, browsing history, over 30 social media platforms, and then send parents specific consolidated alerts when their children had encountered problematic content or problematic people. And along with those alerts, Bark would give best recommended next steps for how to address. How do you talk to your kids when they're the bully? How do you talk to your kids about online predators and suicidal ideation? It's heavy stuff. So we started with our app. We quickly expanded to offer our technology to any school in the nation for free because of the ramping up of violence taking place in school. We then launched hardware. We started with the Bark Home, which goes in your home and connects to your router to help with things that the app couldn't do, like setting time limits on a PlayStation or a smart TV and filters. We then launched a safer smartphone for kids because, as we know, children kept getting smartphones that either were not safe or they just weren't ready for them. So we figured might as well create a safer option. And then finally, most recently, we launched a safer smartwatch for kids. So
Mhm.
we have software and hardware that helps to keep kids safer online and in real life.
Again, I'm not getting paid for saying any of this. We have the thing hooked up to our router. It is amazing because Otherwise, you end up having the same conversations again and again. Like, how long have you been on your phone? I don't know. Just got on it. Like, really? I think, not only, well, it doesn't happen anymore because you can shut it off. And it's such like a powerful tool for parents to be able to sort of, I don't want to say like take one thing off their plate, but to know like, okay, they have an hour to do this, and
Yes.
you get the alerts like if something, and sometimes they're funny alerts, sometimes they search for something like, okay, that's fine, that's actually just part of a recipe, that's not anything, because it is an algorithm. But
Right.
so, all right, now here's the thing though, as parents, you're a parent, how many, you have two kids, correct?
One child, and he
One child.
just turned 16.
One child at 16. Okay. All right. So my oldest is 15. So you're in it. So when we think about this as parents, we worry about lots of things, but sometimes we worry about things that we don't need to worry about. And other times there may be things out there that we should be worrying about, but we're not aware of. When it comes to, technology, what do we worry about that we really shouldn't be worrying about, or that we can find some sort of technology to keep us from worrying? And more importantly, what are those things that as parents, our 15 and 16-year-old kids know about, but we're completely unaware of? And that's what we really need to be paying attention to.
Such great questions. So to the first part of that question, or the first question,
Mhm.
the second question, first part of the second question. Um, what most parents are afraid of that they don't need to be is their kids being left out. We give our children access to apps like Snapchat and TikTok and Instagram before our children are ready because we're afraid they'll be left out. Our children convince us that they're the only ones that don't have X, Y, and Z. And that's usually A, not the case. They're usually not the only one. And B, we actually do want our children to be left out of the bad, the bullying, the graphic, violent sexual content, the addictive algorithms, the misinformation around mental health and body image. There's a lot we actually want our children to be left out of. Now, the flip side of that is we don't need to keep our kids in a bubble, fully isolated from what's happening digitally, socially. We need to prioritize in real life connection for them. Make sure they are doing sports, art, drama, clubs, volunteering, like get our children out of their rooms and out of the house and engaging with humans in real life so they aren't left out of the good of humanity. So that's that part. What parents don't know that our kids know, so much. Goodness gracious. A lot of parents will give their kids access to Snapchat, but they don't even have it yet. And within Snapchat, there's something called Snap Maps that shows your child's real-time live location with anybody they're connected to, which is not ideal if they're connected to people they don't know. What parents don't know about Snapchat is that that's one key way that children's mental health is affected. Let's say everybody's at the movie theater and you're not, you see it in real time on Snapchat. You're like, oh, wow, everybody's there and I'm not. And then they'll all toggle to ghost mode. So all of a sudden they go offline because they don't want anybody to know where they are. And then you're extra left out. And that does not feel good. Parents don't know that there are over 500,000 predators out there known, according to the FBI. And those predators are talking to your children, whether it's on Instagram or Roblox or Discord or Pinterest, like you name it. It's really not a matter of if, but when your child experiences something and you think your child will tell you, or you think you'll know, and I'm here to tell you, you will not. Children are afraid to tell you when they've encountered things. They're either confused or they're scared that you'll punish them or you'll take away their access. And so we need to work really hard to make sure our kids know we're a safe place. They can tell us things and we'll navigate it together without freaking out.
All right, you told me that we don't want our kids to grow up in a bubble, but you've just scared the hell out of me. So, all right, and now that you scared the hell out of me, and probably scared the hell out of all the other people uh, who are listening, take it to that next step. Particularly on what we don't know as parents. Okay, we don't know these things. You just listed a whole bunch of scary to horrifying things. What do we do?
First, be aware, get your head out of the sand. Please don't think not my kid. Good kids make bad choices.
Right.
Um, that's why they legally need a adult guardian to help guide them through childhood. So be aware. have multiple candid conversations with your children from a very young age about these issues, because they'll know that you're in the know and they'll be more likely to come to you. You don't have to come right out and talk about sexual predators with your 4-year-old, but you can talk about tricky people who might seem really nice online. But when they start to ask you personally identifiable information, like your real name and where you live and where you go to school, that's a red flag. They might seem like a nice person, but they're a tricky person, and mom and dad need to know about that. Um, so multiple candid conversations. Nobody looks forward to the day when they need to talk to their child about porn, but they do.
Yeah.
And that's why there's really helpful books out there, like Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. You can get on Amazon that helps to explain, hey, when you see something online that might seem confusing, scary, exciting, intriguing, that's a normal reaction. But here's what you need to do when you come across that, because it can actually hurt your brain and hurt your heart and hurt your ability to have a really healthy relationship with somebody else when you're old enough to. So when it comes to mental health, this is heavy and hard, but we need to talk about it. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in children in this nation. And because of that, we're seeing it at Bark too. At Bark, we send between 85 and 100 severe self-harm and suicidal ideation alerts to parents about their kids every single day.
Mm.
So back to how do you talk to your kids about that when they're young? You don't have to come right out and say suicide, but you can say, hey, you know how if you break your arm, it hurts really bad and you've got to go to the doctor and get a cast and x-rays. Well, sometimes our hearts and our minds can feel really, really bad and really sad and really painful. And that's a normal part of being human. And you don't ever have to be afraid to talk to me about it, because I can help you. And there's a lot of things out there that are built to help people, whether their bodies or their brains or their hearts are hurting.
Yeah. Amazing. Question 3 kind of connects to that one there. As parents, we'd be not doing our job if we didn't talk to our kids about sex, if we didn't talk to our kids about drugs, if we didn't talk to our kids about underage drinking or drinking and driving. Why is it you know more challenging, it seems, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems, for parents to have that conversation around technology with their kids? Is it because, for the most part, we didn't grow up with it, but we grew up with, sex and drugs and drinking? Or what is it that causes them, to be more challenged in talking about technology? And then, of course, the corollary question to that is, how do we help them?
If our children only spent 20 minutes a day on connected tech, it wouldn't be as dire.
Mm.
But if you look at the average amount of screen time for children, whether it's across school use, home use, etc., entertainment, educational, otherwise, it's upwards of 6 to 8 hours a day. And so if any human is spending that much daily time of their life encountering something and there's other humans there, we need to talk about it, because that is the new real life in a way. We
Yeah.
guide our children through the nuances of being human in the world, but we now have to do that as part of their digital world as well.
Mm. Interesting. But how do you then help them? Like,
Yeah.
do you find, when you're talking to parents, and particularly with, your new book, Parental Control, as you're going out there talking about it and having people read it and engage with it, what are, some of the tips you give people who, may be uncomfortable, may not even know where to start? How do you help
Yes.
them start?
Goodness gracious. Usually I start by telling people to take a deep breath, because this isn't easy. We don't have this all figured out. Like, Paul, you and I are the first generation of parents that are having to parent in a world like this. So we do have to give ourselves some grace. We're not going to get it right all of the time. Then it's, again, be aware, stay dialed in, consume the appropriate information so you know what you need to talk to your kids about.
Yeah.
You can mitigate a lot of the dangers by some easy, free tips, like don't allow your children to keep connected tech in the bedrooms or behind closed doors, right? Keep connected tech in the common areas of the home. Um, don't be afraid to delay. As my friend Chris McKenna of Protect Young Eyes says, delay is the way. Just because a bunch of kids in your child's fifth grade class have smartphones and Snapchat doesn't mean that they need to have it too, period.
Right.
We have got to be more confident as a parent because later is longer. So many parents have made the mistake of trying to be their child's friend instead of their parent,
Mhm.
right? And from 18 to 80, you guys can be friends. They need a parent right now. I mean, there's so many things. There's a Facebook group. I started a Facebook group called Parenting in a Tech World that has almost 600,000 parents in it now. So go to the Facebook group. You can ask questions anonymously, get the help you need because
Yeah.
every family is different. I'll pause there, but I could go on.
It's fantastic. It kind of goes into the next question, which is question 4, and that's, kids are quite amazing at if they are growing up in a two-parent household, they're quite amazing at playing parents off each other. They know when a parent is distracted or overwhelmed, or like, hey, can I have this? And maybe not knowing that the other parent has already said no, because no kid asked to get a yes twice. They get a no, they then try to get yes. What do you do with parents if they don't agree on limits or guidelines around tech? Because we were talking about parents having the conversation with kids. How do you, help parents realize that this is something, essential, that both parents need to be on the same page?
This is a very tough one, right? And family therapists have struggled with this for many years when tech wasn't even involved, and either dual parent households or just parents who are together but don't see eye to eye. I mean, one of the biggest takeaways from being a parent for the past 16 years is that you have to be aligned with your co-parent. You
Mm.
have to. You guys have got to be on the same page if you're going to be a unified front and show resolve for your child because children can sniff out weakness, right? And they will absolutely divide and conquer and take you down. Like, so you've got to put your ego, your emotion, your anger, your frustration aside, and please try to, in a mature way, come together and decide what is best for your child. What's best for your child? Not what do want? What's best for your child? And hopefully, most parents, whether they even like each other or not, can agree that what is best for the child is best. So let's do that. But I mean, this is probably 5 episodes, right? Plus maybe a suggestion to go on Dr. Phil. Like, you know what I mean?
Fantastic. Question 5. Where I live in the Northeast, schools are banning, phones during school hours, or they're, putting them in boxes. There are so many concerns around, TikTok, feeding kids detrimental content through their algorithm. And it gets to a point where it just seems overwhelming. We forget that there's a lot of good stuff that you can get online. There's a lot of things you can learn. There are a lot of groups you can, join. You talked about your Facebook group to sort of share knowledge. Where is all of this going? And, how do you as an author, but you as also the CMO of Bark, how do you see, the role that the kind of digital safety companies like Bark can play in making sure that we get as close to an optimal outcome as possible?
This sounds so cliche, but knowledge is power. And when you know better, you can do better. So when you know that Pinterest, for example, is a really fun place for your child who likes to curate maybe design ideas or recipes for upcoming holidays, but you know that there's some dangers, you can go to them proactively and say, "Hey, I'm excited for you to be able to use this tool, but I want you to know there's some things that you can stumble upon that might not be healthy for you or good for you. There's even some people on there that might try to message you that are totally creepy. So just want you to know that you can come to me and let me know when that happens. And we're gonna use this tool, during these hours or for this purpose, but also know that it can become really addictive. And so we need to, as often as we curate, vision boards digitally,
Yeah.
let's get out to the real world and create. Actually, let's actually make some of these recipes. Let's actually draw or design some of these things. So you've got to be really thoughtful about all of it. But again, if you know that there are problems, you can point them out and not keep your kid in a bubble, right? But much like your child is going to have to eventually cross the street one day and or drive, like my child got his license today. Oh my gosh. I'm like, we're talking about all the things, but eventually I've got to let him go, let him make mistakes. Hopefully they will not be fatal.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean, but you
It's
got to,
Atlanta. It's Atlanta. He'll just be sitting in traffic all the time, so he'll be fine. He won't go more than
it's,
like 18 miles an hour. So,
I hope so.
oh boy. Titania Jordan, Chief Marketing Officer at Bark Technologies, author of Parental Control, a guide to raising balanced kids in the digital era. This has been amazing. But, one bonus question for you before I let you go. And that's, you've talked broad brush, but you've just come out with this book. What are, the two or three top things that parents will get from reading your book that'll help them understand this digital world a bit better?
Top two or three things. One, I would say, is confidence. Confidence that if you have been feeling in your gut that something isn't quite right with the way we've been parenting kids with regards to tech for the past few years, you will get validation and you'll get data-based strategies for what to do about it. So confidence that you're not alone. You'll get actual data. We publish at Bark an annual report every year that showcases the rate at which children have encountered problematic content and problematic people. And you're not going to get that sort of information from Meta, from TikTok, from Snapchat. They don't
Right.
want you to know how bad it is, right? So you'll have tangible insights, and then resources. There are so many resources out there. Obviously, I'd love for you to use Bark. I think it's the best. That's why I work there. But it's not just Bark that's out there doing amazing things in this child safety space online. So you'll be made aware to what free and paid tools there are, at your disposal.
Fantastic. Tanya Jordan, thank you again for being my guest on the Company Dads podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Company of Dads podcast. I really appreciate you tuning in week after week. Just want to use this moment here to thank the people who make it possible. Number one, of course, Helder Mira, who is our podcast editor. We also have Skip Cherryholmes, who many of you know from the Lead Dad Diaries. He's taken over our social media. Terry Brennan is helping us with our audience development, and Emily Servin is there each and every day helping with the web development. I can't do any of this without an amazing board of advisors. So I just want to say thank you to all of you who help, and I want to say thank you to everyone who listens, and hopefully you'll tune in again next week. Thanks so much.